Hey everyone! Welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today I'm going to be talking about how change comes when you become the leader that creates more leaders. My guest this week is Rida Ahmed, who is a Gen Z growth hacker and a STEMinist. I got to talk with Rida about what it means to be a growth hacker and what she's hoping to see for the future of STEM. I really enjoyed this conversation and learned a lot from it, so without further ado, let's get started with this episode featuring Rida Ahmed.
So, hi everyone, I am Rida Yumn and I've just graduated high school and I'm 18. Since grade 6, I always wanted to create a positive change in my society. I always used to think that I'll grow up to become a social activist, but I didn't know from where to start. Then eventually, when I started exploring things around me, I was always very much into extracurriculars and other activities. And I just always felt that, we weren't limited to a certain box. And I explored a lot of fields where eventually in grade ninth, I understood that I have a passion for STEM. And then I understood how we can create a positive change when we are using STEM to solve global challenges. Eventually, I got selected into the New York Academy of Sciences, which is a 200 years old organization based in New York, USA. And getting accepted to three of the programs was really an amazing opportunity to have global exposure on how we can how we can solve challenges and create solutions. Then I understood that it's not just you need to be limited to a box or just be in the four walls of your house and then take like a view on a certain opinion and create a social change. But I just felt that we can create a better change in our society if we like just don't have any boundaries. And then I understood the concept of global citizenship, which is not having any barriers. It's like there are no socio-economic as well as geographical barriers, and eventually you're not taking yourself as a representative of any community or a region, but you're taking yourself as a human first. So I understood that when you're understanding the concept of global citizenship, I sort of merged it with STEM as well as having a great passion towards international relations. And therefore, I started working with many national as well as international organizations and started working for solutions at local level because I felt that solutions at the grassroots level needs to be solved. So this is, how I ventured into social activism by understanding that how STEM can be used and also explore that non-STEM areas where we can create social change in our society. And therefore I was a part of like a lot of community service organizations that includes Interact Club, which is another Rotary International. So it helped me to create a vision for a better future and create a better surroundings for people around me who may not have privileges like me. So therefore I had a great mix of exposure to fields, and eventually that led to my dream of social activism. So it was my passion for global citizenship, STEM, international relations, and definitely I made it to a different other fields where the end goal for all the things was design thinking, which I always felt that the user was the king, and eventually creating solutions became the passion for me. And in the end, like currently I am into growth hacking as well as design thinking, and I've always felt that my passion for creating social change will not be just limited to STEM or non-STEM areas, but for creating solutions for the users out there. So currently I am creating a social change in a lot of other ways, and I'm really looking forward to what future holds for me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'm so excited to talk with you about your work today. So, you talked a little bit about your background and what inspired you to get started with this work, but I would love to go a little bit deeper and ask you about the experiences you've had, or maybe some of the challenges you've faced that led you to want to get involved in activism and really start doing this work. Can you tell me some about that background?
So I always felt that, since childhood, all of us were put in boxes. Society imposed a lot of regulations on us. And I just felt that, a lot of people who had potential weren't represented well. And a lot of stereotypes are, existing in today's scenario. And I've always felt that if you need to progress or we need to create a future where, we have like all round development and growth, it can never be done if we are having prejudice or stereotypes against certain community. or like whatever preconceived notions we are having. So I always felt that activism was really much needed, because I have always felt that all of us are born activists. None of, like, it has become a really overrated term in today's age, but I think that you, me, and everyone, even maybe a 10-year-old boy, is an activist in his or own way. Because like growing up, all of us are creating solutions, all of us are trying to bring a change in our own way. We are trying to voice our opinions, and if, like, we are sort of suppressed to not to voice our opinions in some or the other way, we do tend to show our emotions, or uh, aggression, or maybe if we don't feel correct in a certain way, in different ways of communication. Maybe it's art, maybe it's theater, maybe it's you know any form of communication which you feel comfortable with. All of us have been an activist in, like, some stage of our life. So I've always felt that it was really important to create more awareness about this thing, because I felt that each of us is an activist, but not all of us identify the potential within. So I felt that it's really important to not just be there out and like be in the form of social activism. I saw that a lot of girls, they had great potential, but eventually they were suppressed by their families, or they were struggling with the patriarchal regulations which were imposed on them. So I've always felt that it was now the time that Gen Z, I've always felt that Gen Z doesn't wait for the future, they build the future. And I guess everyone who in today's age, whether it's the youth or the millennials or the Gen Z, they're not just waiting for someone for change. They can be the change themselves, but the only thing which matters is that uh, somebody making them understand that you are the change, and you can, and that comes from within. So there's just needs, like, I just thought that I have to be in there, because I need to make people understand that you have the leader within you. And I've always felt that like a great leader is not just one who creates more followers, but more leaders. And I always have believed that principle in my life, and I'm trying to abide by that. So I guess that's the thing, because I've always felt that everybody's talking about us but not to us. And I guess it's right, it's the time when people are making policies, well, where people are making decisions for ourselves. We people should be the voices, and our voices needs to be amplified, and there needs to be a medium for that. And I guess social activism has given me a great platform to amplify the voices of many others around me. There have been a lot of people who have made changes in their society themselves, and it starts from a very local level. So I felt that it's not just related to any one field, whether it's education or health or just gender equality. I guess activism is something which all of us are doing in a certain way, and it can be just by maybe even solving a single issue of your school, of maybe a teacher who is doing bias towards you just because of your color or your religion. And when, if you are fighting it, if you're fighting it with positivity, if you're fighting it not accepting the wrong in the society, I guess an activist is just, you are just like identifying the activists within you. So I just have understood that all those experiences, I try to make people understand that you don't have to suffer for anything. It's not a compulsion for you. And I've always felt that mutual respect is very important, and self-respect is really important. So I guess I've seen a lot of people, especially females, who are being suppressed just because of the gender, or maybe misrepresented societies, who need further attention, or like they don't just get it because of the preconceived notion that they're not getting the attention which they should get. And I have, like, made a lot of people understand. And in my this journey, I do try to do this, that you, like, self-respect is above all the things, and you need not suffer under anyone's oppression. Your dignity is the best thing and the best asset you have, and nobody can take that from you. So yeah.
Wow, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that last point, and I really like your idea about creating other leaders through your leadership. I think you made a lot of great points there, so thank you for sharing all of those. I would also love for you to explain what it means to you to be a growth hacker, because it's actually a title that I haven't heard before since I've been doing this podcast, and I would love for you to explain what it means to you and what that work looks like.
Sure. So, growth hacking has been something I have been doing since 2 years, and have like had a really great experience with it. So as I mentioned, I am like more of a person who believes in exploring different fields and trying to be a polymath, because why not? Exploring different fields gives you the power of understanding a lot of things, and it's not just you're restricting yourself to one thing. So it's not just for me, like I just never restrict myself to a box, but then exploring a different lot of things. So as I mentioned, I was always passionate about international relations, and I started with just writing a blog on WordPress. So that was my first platform where I got international recognition. I got a lot of readers across the globe, and it gave me really sense of achievement, and I just understood that all my views and opinions, they're sort of like, they're not just like, I just felt the courage to write more, and I understood that a lot of my thought process, it sort of like resembles to a lot of people maybe on the other side of the world. So like eventually being a part of a lot of organizations, national and internationally, I just understood that a lot of times a very great, amazing organizations, amazing people, they don't get the edge over others just because maybe they are misrepresented in some way. So eventually, when I was being a part of community service and other fields which I have explored, I went through the term growth hacking, and I found it really exciting because growth hacking is simply like creating solutions, as I mentioned. So I'm really passionate about design thinking, and design thinking is all about creating a solution for the user, where you do brainstorming, where you do ideation, you eventually create a prototype, and then you create a solution for the user out there. So I am also passionate. I'm like really passionate, and I've like been working with it. Like I'm also part of the Girls in Science for SDGs, which is under the umbrella of Royal Academy of Science International Trust. It's also based in US. And thing is that they work for like girls in science, and they're also very much passionate about the 70 Sustainable Development Goals, which were given by the United Nations in 2015. And I've always felt like I'll just come to that part where how growth hacking and SDGs have been merged in my journey. So I've always felt that whether it's poverty, whether it's gender equality, whether it's education, whether it's water, all these goals, the 17 SDGs which we are talking about, whether we are talking about medicine, engineering, law, or any other field, eventually all of us are working out there for the user. All of us are working to solve a certain problem, whether it's a UI UX designer, it's a doctor, it's anyone. We are giving our service to someone. So I just felt that why don't we sort of align these SDGs as well as all the other professions, and then eventually work out for that. For say, if you're trying to create out a solution, if we are maybe a fashion designer and we want to make our clothes for people out there, then why don't we adopt sustainable clothing? And then it will eventually solve, and we'll go, and sort of like in this beautiful journey we'll try to achieve the SDG of maybe creating a more sustainable environment. So I felt that all the professions needs to be aligned with those SDGs, because we need to create a sustainable future, not just for our future generations but also for us. So growth hacking comes in here, where we create solutions which are taking less of the funds, and it's done efficiently. So growth hacking needs to sort of it's like how we take a brand or a company or any other client which I'm working for. I tend to create solutions for them by understanding the brand strategies which they're working upon, and how we can create a like a better ways of ideation of creating more solutions and what the user needs, by using less of funds and more sustainable ways. So that in this sense the company is also sort of gaining a lot of numbers. It goes out there in the public. It's gaining customers, it's gaining more of users, and what eventually the product is about. So the end result is that the company is going out and creating a solution which is not just giving benefits to the users or the public out there, but it's also benefiting the company, because they have used less funds, more of crazy ideas, more of ideation, and amazing strategies which tends to touch the chords of the user's heart, and therefore the design thinking concept comes into this. So this is what all growth hacking is about. It's like hacking the growth concept of not just the company but also of the user. So it's growth in both ways.
That's such an interesting concept, and I'm so glad that you shared that and explained it so well. I would also love to get your take on one last question. Lots of young people, particularly college students, want to create change and they want to make a difference in the world, but they may not know where to get started. If you could share something with all of these young people, do you have any words of wisdom that you would want to share with them?
Okay, yeah, for sure. So it's definitely, as I mentioned, it's believing in yourself, because I've always felt that each of one of us are having great strengths, but we don't, identify those. So starting with, I've always felt that you should go out there in the field no matter what. One, like, I started my LinkedIn profile. I made my LinkedIn profile when I was in grade 10. And I just felt that, I maybe I haven't achieved anything or may not have done anything, but I was just out there in the field. And then that, eventually gave me confidence. So I will definitely say, go out in the public. I know it's difficult. I know it's intimidating at the first, but then you should start your cold emailing. You should reach out to your mentors. Mentors have been really an amazing part of my journey, and what all, like, I've achieved and I am becoming now is because of my mentors. So it's really great to reach out the mentors in your field, or maybe in any other field which you want to explore about. So the one thing I would definitely say is, like, go out and don't feel insecure of your vulnerabilities. I believe vulnerability is definitely your strength. If you go out there, there will be people who will judge you, who might make fun of your weaknesses, but then eventually you don't have to make your weakness, something which you're not proud of. Make it your biggest strength. So it would definitely be just, being out there and not to hesitate. And especially it happens a lot with females, where they might be 80% qualified for a job, but they don't apply, compared to males who might not that be qualified for a job, but they still go and give it a shot. So I guess it's better to just go there, apply to the opportunity which you feel is suitable for you, because I guess that, that really matters. And the person who is having the confidence and the will to just go out there and be confident, and, you know just have the confidence to try it out, because eventually winning is not the end journey. It's the whole journey is like a really beautiful thing. Like, a lot of people also ask me about the SDGs, and they ask me, like, if we could achieve it by 2030, and, what if we don't achieve it? Why are you working for it? Why are you passionate about it? But I've always felt that, the journey is a more beautiful thing than the, like, the final spot which we are reaching. So I guess if you just go out, you try out a thing, you give it a shot, I'm sure, it's the beautiful feeling. At least you won't regret it later, at a later stage of time, that, I didn't try it and I could have done it. So yeah, just go and give your best shot. Less rest, just leave it on God.
Rida is doing great work, and I am so excited I got the chance to speak with her and share her story. I really want to highlight one of the points she made because I was really inspired by it, and I also think it ties really well into her passion for growth hacking. She mentioned that everyone should work to become the leader that creates more leaders. I really like this idea, and it's a point that is so valid, and I actually haven't heard it through my interviews so far. One of the most impactful gifts that you can give to someone else is to inspire them to make a change through your own work that you're doing. I think it's so important to remember that being a leader is crucial because you never know who you're going to impact and inspire through your work, and change comes when you become the leader that creates more leaders. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can follow Rida on Instagram at the.renaissance.womxn to get connected with her. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at bethechangepodcast. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys.